No one helped the fallen Korean Mafia boss after the crash, except one black waitress who chose to lift him to the ambulance. The Mercedes hit the guardrail at 70 miles per hour, metal screaming against metal before the world turned upside down. Inside, Yoon Tae-hyun felt time slow to a crawl, the sickening lurch as the car flipped once, twice, three times, glass exploding inward, the taste of copper flooding his mouth, and then the final, crushing impact as the vehicle slammed into the drainage ditch and everything went black. When consciousness flickered back, Tae-hyun's first thought was that he was drowning. Water was seeping into the overturned car, cold and relentless, filling the cabin inch by terrible inch. He tried to move and white-hot pain exploded through his ribs, his leg, his everywhere. Blood ran into his eyes from a gash on his forehead. His door was crushed inward, trapping him against the steering wheel. Through the shattered windshield, he could see the highway above. Cars slowing down, drivers craning their necks to look. Some pulled out phones, not to call for help, but to record, to capture the wreckage for social media, to watch a man die in real time and do absolutely nothing to stop it. Tae-hyun recognized the cold reality of his world. People feared him too much to help, or hated him too much to care. The water was up to his chest now, his vision blurred at the edges. He'd survived assassination attempts, gang wars, federal investigations. But he was going to die in a drainage ditch while strangers watched from above like he was entertainment. Poetic, in a way, the feared head of the Yoon family, drowning alone while the world stood by. Then he heard it, a splash, someone jumping into the water. Footsteps sloshing closer, and a voice, feminine and fierce, cutting through his fading consciousness. Oh, hell no. Not today, Satan. Not on my watch. Tae-hyun forced his eyes open to see a woman wading through the water toward him. Black, mid-20s, wearing a waitress uniform, the cheap polyester kind from a chain diner. Her name tag read Zara in cheerful letters that seemed absurd given the situation. She was soaked to the waist, hair plastered to her face, and absolutely furious. What the hell is wrong with you people? She screamed up at the gathering crowd. Someone's dying down here. Call 911. Move! Her accent was pure South LA, all sharp edges and zero patience. When no one moved, she cursed viciously and pulled out her own phone, fingers shaking as she dialed. Yeah, I need an ambulance and fire rescue on the 10 freeway, eastbound, mile marker 47. Car in the ditch, driver trapped and injured. Water's rising. You need to hurry. She shoved the phone back in her pocket and turned to Tae-hyun. Up close, her eyes were the color of warm honey, currently blazing with determination. Okay, we're going to get you out of here. Can you move? No, Tae-hyun managed, voice rough. Trapped, leave me, not safe. I don't know if you noticed, but I already jumped into a ditch to get to you. Little late for safety concerns. She was assessing the wreckage with quick, clinical efficiency. Your door's crushed. Can you climb out through the windshield? Ribs, broken, maybe lung. Each word was agony. Go, before... He coughed, tasting blood. Before you get hurt. Before I get hurt? She laughed, the sound sharp and a little hysterical. Baby, I work the night shift at Denny's on Crenshaw. I've been threatened, grabbed, and propositioned by people way scarier than whatever's happening here. So we're doing this the hard way. She started pulling at the crushed metal, trying to create more space. You don't understand, Tae-hyun said, fighting to stay conscious. People want me dead. This was an accident. They sabotaged my car. They could still be watching. You help me, you become target. Zara stopped pulling at the metal and looked at him directly. Are you telling me this was attempted murder? Yes. And whoever did it might come back to finish the job. Yes. Cool, good to know. She went back to pulling at the door with renewed fury. Still not leaving you to drown, so let's focus on not dying in the next 5 minutes, and we'll worry about murder attempts after. The water was at Tae-hyun's neck now. He could feel himself slipping, the pull of unconsciousness growing stronger. Why? He whispered. You don't know me. I know you're a human being who's about to die if I don't get you out. Zara's voice cracked slightly. And I already lost someone because I wasn't strong enough to save them. I'm not doing that again. So either help me or shut up, but I'm not leaving. Something in her words cut through the fog in Tae-hyun's brain. Loss, grief, the kind that reshaped your soul. He recognized it because he carried the same weight. Okay, he said. Okay, on three, I push. You pull. Might pass out from pain. Then I'll drag your unconscious ass to safety. 1, 2, 3. Taehyun pushed with everything he had left. Zara pulled with strength that seemed impossible for her size. Metal groaned. His broken ribs screamed. And then suddenly he was free, sliding through the gap as Zara caught him, her arms surprisingly strong as she took his weight. Got you, she panted. I've got you. Stay with me. What's your name? Taehyun, he managed. Yoon Taehyun. Okay, Taehyun. I'm Zara. Zara Mitchell. And you're going to be fine because I didn't ruin my new Nikes jumping into a ditch just to watch you die. You hear me? He tried to laugh, but it came out as a cough, more blood bubbling up. Zara's expression shifted to something fierce and terrified. No, 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 no. Stay awake. Look at me. Keep those eyes open. She half carried, half dragged him through the water toward the embankment. Taehyun was 6'2" and solidly built, but Zara moved like she'd been training for this moment her entire life. Later, he'd learned she had 4 years as an army medic before an injury sent her home. But right now, all he knew was that this stranger was saving his life with sheer, stubborn will. The climb up the embankment was torture. Every movement sent fresh waves of agony through Taehyun's body. He blacked out twice, coming to only because Zara was slapping his face and demanding he stay conscious. By the time they reached the top, sirens were approaching in the distance. Zara laid him down on the pavement, immediately checking his pulse and breathing. Ambulance is almost here. You did good. Just a little longer. Her hands were gentle despite the urgency, careful of his injuries. Thank you, Taehyun whispered, catching her hand. You saved my life. Thank me by living through this. But her fingers squeezed his gently. And maybe by explaining why someone's trying to kill you, because that's definitely a conversation we're having later. The ambulance arrived in a blaze of lights and noise. Paramedics swarmed, taking over from Zara with professional efficiency. She stepped back, dripping wet and shaking now that the adrenaline was fading. Taehyun tried to keep his eyes on her, this woman who jumped into hell for a stranger, but the paramedics were blocking his view. Sir, can you tell me your name? One of them asked. Yoon Taehyun, he managed. The woman, Zara. Where? She's right here, sir. Try to stay still. We're going to get you stabilized and transported. But when Taehyun looked again, searching for those honey-colored eyes, Zara was gone, disappeared into the crowd of onlookers as if she'd been a hallucination. All that remained was a damp spot on the pavement where she'd knelt and the fading warmth of her hand in his. As they loaded him into the ambulance, Taehyun's last thought before unconsciousness finally claimed him was that he had to find her, had to thank her properly, had to understand why a waitress from Denny's had shown him more loyalty in 15 minutes than some of his own men had in 15 years. He didn't know yet that finding Zara Mitchell would be the easiest part. The hard part would be convincing her to let him into her life, to accept that the man she'd saved was the most dangerous person in Los Angeles, and that by pulling him from that wreckage, she'd tied their fates together in ways neither of them could have imagined. Zara made it 3 blocks before the shaking got so bad she had to pull over. She sat in her beat-up Honda Civic, hands gripping the steering wheel, trying to breathe through the panic attack that had been building since the moment she'd seen that car flip. You're okay, she told herself, voice shaking. You're okay. He's okay. You didn't freeze this time. You saved him. But her mind kept replaying the water rising, the blood, the fear in Taehyun's eyes when he'd told her to leave him, the way he'd looked at her when she'd refused, like she was something impossible and precious. Her phone rang, making her jump. Shanice, her best friend and the only person who knew about that night 3 years ago, the night Zara's little brother Marcus had drowned while she stood frozen on the shore, too scared to jump in, too weak to save him. Girl, where are you? Shanice's voice was sharp with worry. Your shift started 20 minutes ago. Paulie's having a fit. Zara looked down at herself, soaking wet, covered in someone else's blood, hands still shaking. I had an emergency. Tell Paulie I'm sick. I can't come in. Zara, what's wrong? You sound weird. I pulled someone out of a car crash. The words came out flat, disconnected. On the freeway, car flipped into a ditch, He was trapped and everyone just watched Shanice. They just stood there recording while he drowned. Oh my God, are you hurt? No, I'm fine. He's fine. I mean, he was hurt bad, but I got him out before. Her voice cracked. I got him out this time. Silence. Then Shanice's voice, infinitely gentle. Zara, baby, you saved him. You did what you couldn't do for Marcus. That's huge. I should have been able to save them both. Tears were falling now, hot and fast. Marcus wouldn't have died if I'd just been brave enough. Marcus drowned because of a riptide, not because of you. You were 17 and terrified, and there were warning signs everywhere saying not to swim. It wasn't your fault. Then why does it still feel like it was? They sat in silence for a moment, connected by the phone line and years of friendship. Finally, Shanice said, "Where are you? I'm coming to get you. You shouldn't be alone right now." "I'm fine. I just need to go home, shower, sleep." "Zara, I'm fine, Shanice. I promise. I'll call you tomorrow." She hung up before her friend could argue, then sat staring at her phone. She should go home, should forget this ever happened, should go back to her small, safe life where the biggest danger was drunk customers getting handsy. Instead, she found herself Googling Yoon Tae-hyun Los Angeles. The results made her blood run cold. Article after article. Alleged crime boss Yoon Tae-hyun under federal investigation. Korean organized crime figure linked to money laundering scheme. Yoon family suspected in Koreatown gang violence. In photos, Tae-hyun in expensive suits, walking out of courtrooms, attending charity galas, always surrounded by serious-looking men in dark glasses. "Oh shit," Zara whispered. "I saved a mobster. I jumped into a ditch and saved an actual crime boss." She should have been terrified, should have been disgusted with herself. Instead, all she could think about was the way he'd looked at her when she'd refused to leave him. Like she was a miracle he hadn't expected. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Miss Mitchell, this is David Park, attorney for Mr. Yoon Tae-hyun. My client wishes to express his gratitude for your heroic actions today. Please contact me at your earliest convenience to arrange a meeting." Zara stared at the message. How had they found her? She hadn't given the paramedics her information beyond her name. But of course they'd found her. Men like Yoon Tae-hyun had resources she couldn't imagine. The question was what they wanted with her. She should delete the message, should change her number, should pretend today never happened. Instead, she saved the contact and drove home in her wet clothes, wondering what the hell she'd just gotten herself into. Tae-hyun woke up in a private room at Cedars-Sinai, every part of his body screaming in protest. Monitors beeped softly, IV lines snaked into his arms, and standing guard by his door were two of his most trusted men, Jin-ho and Sung-min. "Boss," Jin-ho said, relief flooding his face. "You're awake. Doctor said you'd be out for hours." "How long?" Tae-hyun's voice was rough, throat raw. 6 hours. They had to do surgery. 3 broken ribs, 1 punctured lung, fractured femur, severe concussion, various lacerations. Jin-ho rattled off the injuries like a grocery list. "Doc says you're lucky to be alive." "Not luck," Tae-hyun said. "Woman, waitress, named Zara. Find her." "Already did." Sung-min held up his phone showing a driver's license photo. "Zara Michelle Mitchell, 26, lives in Inglewood. Works at Denny's on Crenshaw. Former Army medic, honorable discharge 3 years ago. Clean record except a few parking tickets." Tae-hyun studied the photo. Zara's face unsmiling in the DMV picture, but still beautiful. Strong features, natural hair and a halo around her face. Those honey-colored eyes that had blazed with determination as she'd pulled him from death. What else? Not much. She keeps her head down, stays out of trouble, lives alone, no significant relationships we can find. Works double shifts most weeks, sends money to her mother in Memphis every month. Sung-min hesitated. "Boss, we should talk about the crash." "Sabotage, I know. Brake line cut. Probably steering column tampered with too." Tae-hyun's jaw tightened. "Who?" "We're looking into it. Could be the Young family. They've been pushing into our territory. Could be the Chinese triads. We refused their alliance proposal last month. Or could be someone internal. Someone who wants your position." The thought that one of his own people might have tried to kill him should have hurt more. But Tae-hyun had been in this life too long to be surprised by betrayal. Double security. Review everyone's finances, communications, movements, and assign protection to the woman. Zara Mitchell. Jin Ho and Sung Min exchanged glances. Boss, she's a civilian. Getting her involved could put her at risk. She's already involved. She saved my life in front of witnesses. My enemies will have identified her by now, same as you did. If they think hurting her hurts me, she becomes a target. Taehyun's hands clenched into fists despite the pain. I won't let her pay for my world. Protect her. Discreetly. Understood. David Park already reached out to her on your behalf, left his contact information. Good. When she calls, bring her here. I need to thank her properly and warn her. But Zara didn't call. Not that day, or the next, or the day after that. A week passed with Taehyun recovering in his hospital room, conducting business from his bed, and waiting for a waitress who apparently wanted nothing to do with him. His security team reported she was going about her normal life. Work, home, occasionally meeting friends. Acting like she hadn't jumped into a drainage ditch to save a stranger's life. Maybe she doesn't want to be involved, Jinho suggested carefully. Some people do good deeds and don't expect anything in return. Or maybe she looked me up and decided I'm not worth the trouble, Taehyun said bitterly. He'd seen the articles too, knew what his name brought up on Google. Can't blame her for that. On day 8, Taehyun made a decision. If Zara wouldn't come to him, he'd go to her. Against his doctor's orders and his security team's protests, he had himself discharged. The fractured femur meant he'd be on crutches for weeks, but he could manage. He'd survived worse. Denny's on Crenshaw was exactly what Taehyun expected. Fluorescent lights, worn booths, the smell of coffee and fried food. It was 2 a.m., the dead zone between late-night drunks and early morning workers. And there, behind the counter in that polyester uniform, was Zara. She was pouring coffee for a regular, laughing at something he'd said, her whole face transformed by genuine joy. Then she looked up and saw Taehyun standing in the doorway on his crutches, flanked by Jin Ho and Sung Min. Every bit of warmth drained from her expression. She said something to the regular, set down the coffee pot, and walked toward Taehyun with determined strides. Up close, she was just as beautiful as he remembered, maybe more so because she was furious. Outside, she said. Not a request. Now. They went. Zara led them to the alley behind the diner, arms crossed, eyes blazing in the sodium lights. What the hell are you doing here? Thanking you, Taehyun said. You saved my life. I wanted to express my gratitude in person. You sent your lawyer. Message received. Thanks acknowledged. We're good. Are we? Because you didn't call back. Didn't respond to any messages. Because I looked you up. Zara's voice was sharp. Because I found out exactly who Yoon Taehyun is, and I decided I don't want any part of that world. Then why are you shaking? Taehyun asked gently. Why do you keep looking at my injuries like you're personally responsible for healing them? I'm not, but she was. Her eyes kept darting to his bandaged head, the crutches, the way he favored his left side. You should still be in the hospital. I should, but I needed to see you, to make sure you're okay, to warn you. Warn me about what? My enemies know you helped me. They might try to use you against me. I've assigned protection. Don't, he said as her eyes flashed. Don't refuse. You saved my life. The least I can do is protect yours. I don't need your protection. I don't need anything from you except for you to leave me alone and let me go back to my normal, boring, safe life. Is it safe? Taehyun asked. Is your life really safe when you work night shifts in a rough neighborhood? When you walk to your car alone at 3 a.m.? When you live in a ground floor apartment with locks that wouldn't stop a determined child? Zara's eyes narrowed. Have you been watching me? Making sure you're protected. There's a difference. No, there's not. That's stalking. That's an invasion of privacy. That's you thinking because you're rich and powerful, you can do whatever you want. That's me making sure the woman who saved my life doesn't pay for it with hers. Taehyun's voice rose, then he winced, pain flaring in his ribs. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for invading your privacy, for showing up at your workplace, for dragging you into my mess. But Zara, please understand. You're in danger whether you want to be or not. Letting me protect you isn't about control. It's about keeping you alive. Zara studied him for a long moment, emotions warring across her face. Finally, she said, Why does it matter so much? You don't know me. I'm just someone who happened to be driving by. You jumped into a drainage ditch while everyone else watched. You refused to leave even when I told you I was a target. You saved my life when you had every reason to let me die. Taehyun took a careful step closer. That makes you extraordinary. That makes you someone worth protecting. Or it makes me an idiot with a savior complex, Zara said, but her voice was softer now. Why did you? Taehyun asked. Why risk your life for a stranger? Something painful flickered across Zara's face. Because 3 years ago, I watched my little brother drown, and I was too scared to save him. I froze, and he died. So when I saw you in that water, I couldn't. Her voice broke. I couldn't let it happen again. I couldn't be that weak twice. The confession hung between them, raw and honest. Taehyun understood grief, understood the weight of failure. You're not weak, he said quietly. You're the strongest person I've ever met. You don't know me. Then let me. Let me get to know you. Let me thank you properly. Let me. He stopped, unsure what he was asking for. Protection? Friendship? Something more? What do you want from me, Taehyun? The use of his first name sent warmth through his chest. Honestly, I don't know. I just know that when I woke up in that hospital, all I could think about was seeing you again, making sure you're safe, understanding why a waitress from Denny's showed me more loyalty than people I've known for years. Maybe because I didn't know who you were, didn't know you're a criminal who runs half of Koreatown. Alleged criminal, Taehyun corrected with a slight smile. Never been convicted. That's not the defense you think it is. But Zara's lips twitched, almost a smile. You really think I'm in danger? I know you are. My world doesn't forgive kindness. People will see your actions as a weakness they can exploit. Zara was quiet for a long moment, thinking. Finally, okay, fine. You can assign protection or whatever, but I have conditions. Name them. 1. Your people stay invisible. I don't want men in suits following me around making me look like I'm under investigation. 2. You stay away from my workplace, my home, my friends. I don't want my life contaminated by your world. And 3. When this blows over, when I'm not in danger anymore, you let me go. No strings, no obligations. We go back to being strangers. Every condition was a knife to the chest, but Taehyun nodded. Agreed, on one condition of my own. What? Have dinner with me. Once. Let me thank you properly, explain my world, answer your questions. After that, if you want nothing to do with me, I'll honor your wishes. That's manipulative. That's honest. I want to see you again, Zara. I want to know the woman who saved my life. One dinner. That's all I'm asking. She shouldn't agree. Should hold firm to her boundaries. But something in Taehyun's eyes, vulnerability mixed with hope, made her weak. One dinner. Somewhere, public. No mobster restaurants or shady warehouses. I know a place. Saturday, 7 p.m. I'll send a car. I'll drive myself. Just send me the address. Taehyun smiled, genuine and warm despite the pain he was clearly in. Deal. Thank you, Zara. For everything. She watched him hobble back to his car, flanked by his bodyguards, and wondered what the hell she'd just agreed to. One dinner with a crime boss. What could possibly go wrong? Everything, as it turned out. Everything could go wrong. The restaurant Taehyun chose was Perch, the rooftop French bistro in downtown LA, with stunning views and even more stunning prices. Zara almost turned around when she saw it, but Taehyun was already waiting by the entrance, leaning on a single crutch instead of two, dressed in a dark suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. You came, he said, relief evident in his voice. I said I would. Zara had agonized over what to wear, finally settling on a simple black dress that was nice enough for this place but wouldn't make her feel like an imposter. You said somewhere public. This is definitely public. And expensive enough that my enemies won't cause a scene. They have standards, he offered his arm. Shall we? The meal was awkward at first, both of them dancing around the elephant in the room, his world, her fear, the impossibility of any real connection between them. But then Taehyun asked about her time in the army, and Zara found herself talking. About basic training, about learning to save lives under fire, about the IED that had killed 3 of her unit and left her with shrapnel scars and medical discharge. That's why you knew what to do at the crash, Taehyun said. You're trained for trauma. Trained, yeah. Doesn't mean I'm good at it when it's personal, when it's someone I care about. She stopped, realizing what she'd said. You care about me? Taehyun's eyes were intense. We just met. I care about keeping people alive. Occupational hazard. But her cheeks were warm. Tell me about your world. The real story, not the sanitized version. So, Taehyun told her. About his grandfather who'd come to LA in the 1960s with nothing, building an empire through gambling and protection rackets. About his father who'd expanded into legitimate businesses while maintaining the shadow operations. About taking over at 23 when his father was killed by Chinese triads. In the 5 years he'd spent consolidating power and eliminating threats. I'm not a good man, he said bluntly. I've hurt people, ordered things done that keep me up at night. But I follow rules. I don't touch drugs, don't traffic people, don't harm civilians. The businesses I run, gambling, some loan operations, protection services, they serve a community that banks and police ignore. That's a rationalization, Zara said. You're still a criminal. Yes, I am. And if you want to walk away from this table and never see me again, I'll understand. But Zara, everything I told you is the truth. I won't lie to you. Not about who I am or what I do. Zara studied him, this confusing man who was both monster and savior. Why does it matter what I think? You have power, money, people who follow your orders. What do you need from a waitress from Inglewood? Honestly, I don't know. Taehyun reached across the table, fingers stopping just short of touching hers. But when I thought I was going to die in that car, my only regret was things left undone. Risks not taken. And then you appeared, this fierce woman who wouldn't let me give up. And suddenly I had a second chance. I don't want to waste it. Waste it on what? On finding out what this is. This connection between us. It's not just gratitude, Zara. When I look at you, I see someone who understands what it's like to carry the weight of failure. Who knows what it means to make life and death decisions? Who's strong enough to jump into hell for a stranger, but still carries scars from the people she couldn't save? The words cut too close. Zara pulled back, needing distance. You researched me, my brother, my discharge, all of it. I needed to understand the woman who saved me. But the facts don't tell the whole story, do they? They don't explain why you still flinch when it rains heavily, or why you work yourself to exhaustion, or why you jumped into that ditch despite your fear of water. You don't know anything about my fear of water. You were shaking when you pulled me out, not from cold or exertion, from terror, but you did it anyway. That's courage, Zara. Real courage. Tears pricked Zara's eyes. She looked away, blinking hard. You're very good at this, saying the right things, making me feel seen. Is this how you manipulate people into working for you? This isn't manipulation. This is me being honest about how extraordinary you are and how much I want to know you better. Why? So you can add me to your collection? The waitress you rescued from obscurity? You rescued me, Taehyun said firmly. And I don't want to add you to anything. I want... He stopped, seemingly surprised by his own intensity. I want to take you to dinner again. I want to hear about your day, your dreams, your fears. I want to make you laugh. I want to see you smile the way you did with that customer at Denny's. All genuine joy and warmth. And yes, I want to protect you from my world while also bringing you into it, which I know is contradictory and probably impossible, but I'm willing to try if you are. Zara's heart was pounding. This is crazy. You're a criminal. I'm a waitress. We have nothing in common. We have survival in common. We have loss. We have an understanding of what it means to keep going when everything tells you to quit. Taehyun's hand finally crossed that last inch, fingertips brushing hers. And we have this, whatever this is. Don't tell me you don't feel it. She did. God help her. She felt it. The pull between them, the recognition of kindred spirits, the dangerous attraction that had nothing to do with his money or power, and everything to do with the man who'd looked at her in that ditch like she was a miracle. One more dinner, she heard herself say, and we'll see. Taehyun's smile was incandescent. One more dinner, I'll take it. They talked until the restaurant closed, about everything and nothing. Taehyun told her about growing up as the heir to a criminal empire, the pressure and isolation. Zara talked about her dreams of medical school before money and trauma had derailed them. They discovered shared loves, old movies, terrible puns, spicy food that made their eyes water, and slowly, impossibly, the distance between them shrank. When Tae-hyun walked her to her car, moving more easily now despite the crutch, he said, "Can I ask you something? You've been asking me things all night. Something personal, your brother. What was his name?" The question stole Zara's breath. Most people avoided mentioning Marcus, like grief was contagious. Marcus Anthony Mitchell, he was 15, wanted to be a marine biologist, wasn't scared of anything except disappointing our mom. He sounds amazing. He was, and I let him die. No, Tae-hyun said firmly. The ocean let him die. Nature. Bad luck. Circumstances beyond your control. But Zara, you didn't let him die. You were a kid yourself, and you've been punishing yourself ever since. How would you know? Because I do the same thing. My father died protecting me from an assassin. Took a bullet meant for my head. Every decision I make, every risk I take, I'm trying to prove I was worth that sacrifice. We're both trying to save people we've already lost. Zara looked up at him, this man who understood her in ways she hadn't let anyone else try. What do we do about it? We keep living. We save the people we can. And maybe, if we're lucky, we save each other. He touched her cheek gently. Can I see you again? Not as obligation or gratitude, just because I want to. Yes, Zara whispered. Yes, you can. He kissed her then, soft and careful, like she was something precious he didn't want to break. And Zara kissed him back, pouring 3 years of grief and loneliness and desperate hope into the contact. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard. That was, Tae-hyun started. Yeah, Zara agreed. It really was. She drove home in a daze, touching her lips, replaying every moment. She should have been terrified. She was falling for a man whose world was violence and secrets. Instead, she felt alive for the first time since Marcus died. Like maybe she deserved happiness. Like maybe saving Tae-hyun had saved something in herself too. The next 3 weeks were a masterclass in contradiction. Tae-hyun courted her with an intensity that should have been overwhelming, but somehow felt perfect. Flowers delivered to Denny's, always purple, her favorite color. Texts throughout the day, checking in but never demanding. Dinners at quiet restaurants where they could talk for hours. He told her about his world without sanitizing it. The violence he'd ordered, the enemies he'd made, the constant weight of leadership. Zara told him about the nightmares that still woke her, about her mother's disappointment, about feeling like a failure who couldn't save anyone who mattered. They were brutally honest with each other in ways neither had been with anyone else, but they kept their relationship secret. Zara insisted. She didn't want to be a target, didn't want the attention. Tae-hyun agreed, understanding that his world was dangerous enough without painting her as his weakness. So they met in private, away from his people and hers, building something fragile and precious in the spaces between their separate lives. Then everything changed. Zara was closing up Denny's one night when 3 men walked in. Korean, dressed in expensive suits, moving with casual menace. The few remaining customers suddenly found reasons to leave. Her co-worker Destiny took one look and disappeared into the kitchen. Zara Mitchell, the leader said. Not a question. We need to talk. We're closed, Zara said, proud that her voice was steady. We're not here for food. We're here about Yoon Tae-hyun. Ice flooded Zara's veins. I don't know who that is. Please don't insult our intelligence. You pulled him from a car crash. You've been seeing him regularly for weeks. What we want to know is, are you his woman or just a convenience? I'm nobody's woman, and whatever you think I am to him, you're wrong. The leader smiled, all teeth and no warmth. Good, because we'd hate to hurt someone important. But a waitress he's grateful to? That's different. That sends a message without starting a war. One of the other men moved closer, hand reaching for his jacket. Zara's military training kicked in, assess threats, identify exits, prepare for violence. She was backing toward the kitchen when the diner's front windows exploded inward. Gunfire erupted. Zara dropped behind the counter as bullets tore through the space where she'd been standing. She heard shouting in Korean, more gunfire, then sudden silence. When she dared to look up, the 3 men were gone. Fled or dead, she couldn't tell. And Jin-ho was standing in the wreckage, gun drawn, expression grim. Are you hurt? He asked. No. What the hell was that? Young family. They've been making moves against the boss for weeks. Saw you as an easy target. He holstered his weapon. The boss is going to lose his mind when he finds out. Don't tell him, Zara said immediately. He's still recovering. He doesn't need this stress. Miss Mitchell, with respect, he needs to know his enemies tried to kill you. This changes everything. Then I'll tell him myself. Zara stood on shaking legs. Just give me a few hours. Let me figure out how to say it. But Tae-hyun arrived before she could call him, bursting through the diner's shattered entrance on his crutches, face pale with fear and fury. Zara, thank God, are you hurt? I'm fine, how did you? I have alerts set for any threat to your safety. The moment shots were fired, I knew. He pulled her into his arms, crutches clattering to the floor. I should have protected you better. Should have anticipated this. I'm so sorry. This isn't your fault. It's exactly my fault. My enemies, my world, your danger. He pulled back, hands framing her face. You need to leave LA. I'll set you up somewhere safe. New identity, new life. Somewhere they can't find you. You want me to run? I want you alive. And as long as you're associated with me, you're a target. Zara pushed away from him, anger flooding through her. So that's it? You decide I'm in danger and I have to abandon my life, my job, my friends? I don't get a say? This isn't about control. It's exactly about control. You treating me like I'm some fragile thing that needs to be hidden away instead of a grown woman who can make her own choices. They tried to kill you, and your man stopped them. You have security, resources, power. Use them. Don't exile me because you're scared. Of course I'm scared, Tae-hyun's voice cracked. I'm terrified, Zara, because I'm falling in love with you, and I can't protect you from my world. And the thought of them hurting you because of me. He stopped, seeming shocked by his own words. The confession hung between them. Zara's anger drained away, replaced by something warm and terrifying. You're falling in love with me. Yes, which is why you need to leave. Why I need to let you go before I get you killed. What if I don't want to go? What if I'm falling for you too and I'd rather fight than run? Then you're a fool. My life is violence, Zara. It's never going to be safe. I was an army medic. I served in Afghanistan. I know what danger looks like. She stepped closer. And I'd rather face it with you than hide from it alone. I can't ask you to do that. You're not asking. I'm choosing. She took his face in her hands the way he'd done to her. I'm choosing you, Tae-hyun. Your world, your scars, your enemies, all of it. Because when I pulled you from that water, I didn't just save your life. I found mine again. He kissed her desperately, pouring fear and relief and love into the contact. Around them, his security team discreetly looked away. When they finally broke apart, Tae-hyun sighed. This is insane. Completely, Zara agreed. But I saved you once. I can do it again. We can save each other. It won't be easy. There will be threats, attempts, danger you can't imagine. Then teach me. Bring me into your world properly. Stop trying to protect me from it and let me be your partner. Tae-hyun studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Okay, but we do this my way. You move into my place where I can protect you. You learn self-defense, weapons training, the full security protocol. And you don't take unnecessary risks. Deal. As long as you stop making decisions for me and start making them with me. I can live with that. He kissed her again, gentler this time. God, you're extraordinary. Just a waitress who jumped into a ditch, Zara said. The waitress who saved my life and is apparently too stubborn to leave when any sane person would run. Lucky for you, I've never been accused of sanity. The war with the Young family intensified. Zara moved into Tae-hyun's penthouse, a fortress of glass and steel with security that would make Fort Knox jealous. She quit Denny's, too exposed, too dangerous, and instead began working at the Yoon family's community center, coordinating services for immigrant families. Tae-hyun was right about the danger. There were 3 more attempts in the first month. A car bomb that their security defused, a hired shooter that Jin-ho took out, a poison attempt that Zara's military-trained paranoia caught before anyone ate the food. Each time she refused to break, refused to run. Instead, she learned. Tae-hyun taught her about his organization, the legitimate businesses that funded everything, the shadow operations that maintained power, the delicate balance of alliances and threats that kept them safe. She learned to shoot, to fight, to spot danger. Discovered she was good at strategy, at seeing patterns others missed. You should have been running this organization, she told Taehyun one night after she'd identified a young family informant that his people had missed. You're wasted just enforcing. I'm the muscle, always have been. You're brilliant. You just hide it behind violence because that's what your father taught you. She touched his face gently. What if you could be more? Build something that doesn't require blood. Like what? Legitimate power. Real estate, investments, political influence. Things that last beyond gang territory and protection rackets. Taehyun was quiet for a long moment. My father tried to go legitimate. It's what got him killed. The old guard doesn't accept change. Then make new guard. Build an organization that doesn't need violence to survive. Zara's eyes blazed with conviction. You saved me from drowning. Let me save you from this life. It became their mission. Slowly, carefully, Taehyun began shifting resources, buying legitimate businesses, establishing legal income streams, creating paper trails that would stand up to federal scrutiny. It was dangerous. Change always was. But with Zara's strategic mind and Taehyun's ruthless efficiency, it started working. The young family, seeing their rival weakening, pushed harder. The final confrontation came on a rainy night, 6 months after the diner attack. Intelligence said the young boss was meeting with Chinese triads, planning a joint operation to eliminate the Yoon family once and for all. I'm going to end this, Taehyun told Zara. Tonight, one way or another. Then I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. This is going to be a bloodbath, which is exactly why you need me. You're planning to go in guns blazing, eliminate the threat through force. But Taehyun, what if there's another way? Like what? Like using what I know about young operations. The informant I identified works both sides. What if we turn him, feed false information, make the triads think Young betrayed them? Let them eliminate each other while you stay clean. It was risky. It was clever. It was exactly the kind of strategy that could either save them or destroy everything. Taehyun looked at the woman who'd saved his life and was now trying to save his soul. You're terrifying, you know that? I learned from the best. They executed the plan that night. The informant, motivated by a combination of threats and promises, delivered carefully doctored information to the triads. Information that made it look like Jung was planning to betray their alliance and take their territory. The triads, predictably, reacted with violence. By morning, the Jung boss was dead, killed by his own allies, and the triad leadership was in disarray. The Yoon family hadn't fired a single shot. Taehyun's enemies had eliminated each other, leaving him victorious without adding to the body count that haunted his sleep. You're a genius, he told Zara as dawn broke over the city. A terrifying, brilliant, beautiful genius. I'm a waitress who reads people well, she corrected. But together, we're unstoppable. The victory gave them breathing room. Taehyun accelerated his transition to legitimate business. 6 months later, the Yoon family organization was mostly legal. Real estate development, import-export, venture capital. The shadow operations remained, but smaller, quieter, controlled. And through it all, Zara was beside him. Not as decoration or weakness, but as partner. She took classes at community college, working toward the medical degree she'd abandoned. Ran the community center with fierce efficiency. And at night, she came home to Taehyun, to the life they were building together. 1 year after the crash, Taehyun took Zara back to the drainage ditch where she'd saved him. It had been filled in, the highway repaired, no trace remaining of that night. But they stood where his car had landed, rain falling softly around them. A year ago, I was dying here, Taehyun said, certain I was going to drown alone while strangers watched. And then you jumped in. I had to. I couldn't let you die. You didn't let me die. You gave me life. A real life, not just survival. He turned to face her, rain streaming down both their faces. Zara Mitchell, you saved me in every way a person can be saved. Will you marry me? He pulled out a ring, simple, elegant, with a purple stone the color of her favorite flowers. I know my world is complicated. I know I'm not an easy man to love, but you make me want to be better. You make me believe I can be more than my father's legacy. Say yes. Build this life with me. Zara looked at him. This man who'd been a stranger a year ago, who'd become her entire world. You're a former crime boss with enemies and secrets and a past that won't stay buried. I am. You're controlling and overprotective, and you make decisions based on fear instead of trust. Also true. And I've never loved anyone the way I love you. She took his face in her hands. Yes, Taehyun. Yes, I'll marry you. I'll build this impossible life with you. I'll save you every single day for the rest of our lives, and you can save me right back. He kissed her in the rain, on the spot where she'd pulled him from death, where both their lives had changed forever. And Zara thought about the person she'd been a year ago, broken, haunted by the brother she couldn't save, going through the motions of living. That woman would never have believed this was possible. But here she was, engaged to a man whose world was dangerous and complicated and absolutely worth fighting for. Because sometimes salvation comes from the most unexpected places. Sometimes it wears an expensive suit and bleeds in drainage ditches. Sometimes it asks, "Are you okay?" and changes everything. The wedding was small, held in the community center Zara ran. Her mother flew in from Memphis, skeptical at first about this Korean man with shadows in his eyes, but won over by the way he looked at her daughter, like Zara was the sun and he was just lucky to be in her orbit. Shanice stood as maid of honor, having long since accepted that her best friend had fallen for a reformed gangster. At least he's hot, she'd said, and rich, and completely obsessed with you. Could be worse. Jinho and Sungmin were groomsmen, these men who'd protected them both through countless threats. Mrs. Choi from the Korean restaurant officiated, her blessing meaning more than any traditional clergy. And when Taehyun lifted Zara's veil, when he signed their vows in a mixture of Korean, English, and the private language they'd built together, Zara felt Marcus's presence. Like her brother was there, approving, telling her it was okay to be happy. That saving Taehyun didn't erase failing to save him, that she was allowed to move forward. I promise to be worthy of your courage, Taehyun vowed, to build a life that honors your sacrifice, to jump into ditches for you the way you jump for me, and to love you with everything I am, everything I was, and everything I'm becoming. I promise to see past your scars to the man underneath, Zara responded, to be your partner in building something beautiful from broken pieces, to save you as many times as you need saving, and to love you despite your terrible timing, your dangerous past, and your habit of proposing in drainage ditches. They kissed as husband and wife, and the small crowd erupted in applause. Later at the reception, Taehyun's legitimate business associates mingled with Zara's friends from Denny's, two worlds colliding in ways that shouldn't have worked but somehow did. You did it, Shanice told Zara, as they watched Taehyun talk with her mother, clearly charming the woman who'd been so skeptical. You actually pulled off the impossible, reformed a gangster and made him fall in love with you. I didn't reform him. He was always good underneath the violence. I just helped him see that. And he helped you see that Marcus's death wasn't your fault, that you deserve happiness, that you're not just a trauma survivor, you're a whole person. Shanice hugged her tight. I'm proud of you, girl. You jumped into that ditch and saved both of you. That night in their penthouse apartment, Zara and Taehyun stood at the window overlooking Los Angeles. The city sparkled below them, full of possibility and danger in life. Do you ever regret it? Taehyun asked. Saving me? Getting pulled into this world? Never. Do you regret letting me save you? My only regret is all the time I wasted before meeting you. All the years I could have spent loving you. We have time now. All the time in the world. They stood together in comfortable silence. Two people who'd found each other in the worst moment of their lives and built something beautiful from the wreckage. The waitress and the crime boss, the savior and the saved, partners in every sense of the word. 5 years passed. Taehyun's transformation was complete. He was now known as a legitimate businessman, philanthropist, and community leader. The shadow operations were gone, dissolved, or transferred to others. He invested in education, funded programs for at-risk youth, built something that would last beyond violence. Zara finished her degree and opened a free clinic in the community center, serving the same immigrants and working-class families she'd once waited on at Denny's. She was featured in Los Angeles Magazine as one of the city's rising healthcare leaders, though she still thought of herself as just a waitress who'd gotten lucky. They had a daughter, Ji-sun, named for Taehyun's mother. She had her father's dark eyes and her mother's fierce determination, already showing signs she'd grow up to be as stubborn as both her parents. And when Zara held her, she felt Marcus's presence again, the family she'd lost, making room for the family she'd found. Do you think about that night? Taehyun asked one evening as they watched Jisun sleep. The crash? Every day. It's the night my life started making sense again. Mine too. I was so certain I was going to die alone, that my legacy would be violence and fear and nothing else. And then you appeared. I'm glad I did. I'm glad I was driving by. Glad I jumped in. Glad I was too stubborn to let you die. So am I. Though I still can't believe no one else helped. All those people watching, and you were the only one brave enough to act. Maybe that's why it was supposed to be me. Maybe we were supposed to find each other that way. You needing someone who wouldn't abandon you, me needing someone who'd let me be strong again. Taehyun pulled her close, their daughter sleeping peacefully between them. I love you, Zara, my savior, my partner, my home. I love you too, my impossible man, my beautiful disaster, my happy ending. And in the quiet of their home, surrounded by the life they'd built from tragedy and courage and stubborn refusal to give up, they found peace. The Korean Mafia boss and the black waitress, bound together by a moment of crisis that had changed everything. Sometimes salvation comes from unexpected places. Sometimes it wears a polyester uniform and jumps into drainage ditches. Sometimes it refuses to leave even when ordered to. Refuses to let go even when it would be easier. Refuses to accept that some people are beyond saving. Zara had learned that night that she wasn't weak, wasn't broken, wasn't defined by the one person she couldn't save. She was strong enough to save someone when it mattered. Strong enough to build a life from that moment. Strong enough to love a man whose world was complicated and dangerous and absolutely worth fighting for. And Taehyun had learned that he wasn't just the sum of his father's legacy, wasn't trapped in a cycle of violence, wasn't doomed to die alone in a ditch while strangers watched. He was worthy of being saved, worthy of love, worthy of building something better. They'd both jumped into impossible situations, Zara into the ditch, Taehyun into loving someone from a completely different world, and they'd both emerged transformed, saved by each other in ways that had nothing to do with physical rescue and everything to do with seeing each other's souls. 10 years after the crash, they returned to the spot one final time. It was completely different now, a memorial park where the drainage ditch had been, funded by the Yoon Family Foundation. Children played on swings, families had picnics, life bloomed where death had nearly claimed Taehyun. Do you remember what you said to me? Zara asked. In the water when you told me to leave. I said I wasn't worth saving, that you should go before you got hurt. And I said that you'd already lost someone you loved because you weren't brave enough, that you weren't going to let it happen again. Taehyun took her hand. You saved more than my life that night, Zara. You saved my soul. We saved each other. That's what partners do. They stood together in the memorial park, watching Jisun play with other children, watching the community they'd built together thrive. And Zara thought about the girl she'd been at 17, frozen on the beach while her brother drowned. About the woman she'd become at 26, jumping into a ditch without hesitation. About the person she was now. Strong, loved, whole. Thank you, she told Taehyun softly, for letting me save you, for giving me the chance to be brave when it mattered. Thank you for not letting me die alone, for seeing something worth saving underneath all the violence and fear, for jumping in when everyone else walked away. They kissed in the afternoon sun, in the place where their story had begun, where a black waitress had refused to let a Korean crime boss drown, where courage and compassion had collided with desperation and danger, where two lives had intersected and changed forever. Because sometimes all it takes is one person willing to jump in, one person brave enough to save a stranger, one person stubborn enough to believe that no one is beyond redemption, that everyone deserves a second chance, that love can grow from the most unlikely soil. Zara had been that person, and in return, Taehyun had become hers, the man who'd let her save him, who'd built a life worthy of her courage, who'd proven that sometimes the people we save end up saving us right back. Ready to go home? Taehyun asked, watching their daughter run toward them. Always, Zara said, as long as home is wherever you are. They left the memorial park hand in hand, their daughter between them, walking toward a future neither could have imagined that rainy night when their worlds collided. The waitress and the boss, the savior and the saved, partners, lovers, family. And somewhere, in whatever comes after life, Marcus smiled. His sister had finally forgiven herself, had finally understood that she wasn't defined by the life she couldn't save, but by all the ways she'd chosen to save others since. She jumped into that ditch not just for Taehyun, but for herself. And in doing so, she'd found everything she'd been missing: courage, purpose, love, home. All because one black waitress refused to walk away when a Korean mafia boss needed help. All because she understood that we're all drowning in one way or another. And sometimes the bravest thing we can do is reach out a hand and pull someone to safety, even if it means jumping into hell to do it, especially then.